Breaking news. On June 17, Putin will meet with African leaders to discuss a potential grain deal. An aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that Putin will meet with African leaders to discuss the Black Sea Grain Initiative on June 17, on the sidelines of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Yuri Ushakov told reporters on the sidelines of the newly opened forum that a stable supply of grain to the continent is of interest to African leaders, but that this is not guaranteed under the current grain deal. Moscow, he said, has been carefully monitoring developments under the agreement, and its concerns have been made public. We are not happy with the way in which Russia is adhering to the terms of this agreement. I'm left with zero satisfaction. And it's in this context that we'll naturally consider whether or not to extend this deal, he said. Despite the most powerful pressure the West is putting on African states, the second Russia-Africa summit will take place on July 27 to 28 in St. Petersburg, according to Ushakov. Despite the pressure, most of the states have confirmed their participation in our summit, he stated. Ushakov said that preparations are actively being made for the summit and that he believes the meeting will be great importance for the further development of Russia's relations with the countries of the African continent. South Africa hosts the BRICS summit. When discussing the upcoming summit of BRICS leaders, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, Ushakov stated that many organizational matters have yet to be resolved. This summit is scheduled to take place at the end of August in Johannesburg, South Africa. He pointed out that South Africa has been vague about its plans to deal with the International Criminal Court (ICC) warrant for President Putin's arrest. The South African side's plans for carrying out the International Criminal Court's illegitimate decision remain unclear, he said. Ushakov has stated that the expansion of the BRICS association is a top priority for the organization this year because a big number of countries, both large and medium-sized, are interested in joining the BRICS format. Others are interested in potential cooperation, in being partners in the dialogue with the organization, while still others state explicitly that they want to participate as full members and ask to be accepted immediately. There has been a tidal wave of interest in joining this group, he said. According to Ushakov, this is not an easy decision to make because on the one hand, no one should be rejected, but on the other, the format must preserve its capability to work effectively so that new members would not blur it with approaches that deeply oppose the interests of the founding countries. Ushakov commented on rumors that French President Emmanuel Macron would attend the BRICS summit, saying that it is up to the host country to invite guests and that there are sometimes participants who do not take part in the main events. I am aware that the initial goal of the South African presidency was to invite the vast majority of African states to this summit. I have no idea what the status of this invitation is. It's common practice, but typically these sorts of things are settled through mutual agreement among the countries involved, he said. U.S.-Russian ties. When asked about the current state of Russian-American relations, Ushakov said, "So far, there is no improvement in sight, and the state of affairs on the Russian-American track is not particularly encouraging." He criticized the EU's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, for saying that Russia's president is waiting for the U.S. presidential election to launch peace talks on Ukraine, calling those comments an exaggeration. Putin is not waiting around for the U.S. election results. There are no super expectations, he stressed. Of course, it is probably of interest to any normal person. Ushakov claims that the Chinese peace plan for Ukraine has been widely discussed, and that it has been and is being given very great importance due to its author. According to him, visa delivery is just one of many issues where communication between Russia and the United States is limited to infrequent exchanges between the Foreign Ministry and the U.S. Embassy in Russia and the State Department and the Russian Embassy in the United States. In addition, prisoner swaps are discussed periodically through back channels. According to Ushakov, President Vladimir Putin is sincerely grieving over the death of his partner and friend, Silvio Berlusconi, the former Prime Minister of Italy, but the Russian side was not invited to the funeral.